Hello, I'm Bradley and welcome to my channel. Negativity. Do you often have those negative thoughts? Do they get you down? Do they make you feel quite a little bit sort of absorbed into yourself, a little bit sort of looking out at the world thinking, do you know what, I'm just feeling a bit gloomy today. I can't really face what I want to try and do. And it's really starting to have a bit of an impact on me, but yet to the rest of the world, you give a small smile and you're actually making out to everybody else that you're okay, but deep down inside, your negative thoughts or your negative mindset is starting to take a bit of a toll on you. Well, do you know what, my friends? Most of us go through that, and I would say that all of us go through that, but there was always going to be one or two people who would never admit that they will. And do you know what? That's absolutely okay, because that's how they deal with it. But it's not always easy. Now, I had a bit of a difficult day yesterday where, with different things going through my mind, I was feeling quite stressed. I was feeling quite hurt, quite sort of a little bit down, as you would speak, and I really missed my nan, who I lost back in May of 21, and I struggle. I very, very much struggle without her being here. She is my absolute world. And you know, sometimes when we have negative thoughts about ourselves, you find that everything else seems to jump on that wagon of stress and worry. And if you're not careful, it can very quickly absorb into something which is not that easy to deal with. And it can really manifest. And the way I describe it is that you can be thinking and you can be going down a path in your mind with thoughts. And before you know it, you can find yourself along that path, and yet you don't necessarily know how to get yourself back to feeling your happy, sort of on point perspective. Okay, so it's really quite tough. So be careful. So that's what today's clip is all about. We're talking about negativity and how do we control those negative thoughts. So for a start, we've just spoken there that actually, that when we're in a bit of a negative mind frame, that we're a little bit more susceptible to things jumping on the bandwagon, as to speak. So if we're feeling a bit stressed, maybe we've had a long day at work, what you really want to be trying to do then is give yourself a break and really try to acknowledge that actually you're feeling a bit stressed, you're feeling a little bit burnt out. It's time to really start to take action. So do something which cheers you up. Now you may think that that's quite straightforward in what you want about Bradley. I'm naturally going to do that. Well, no, not really you're not, because if you've got a young family and you've got pressure to look after the family, or maybe you've got caring responsibilities, maybe you're looking after a loved one, maybe you can't just drop everything and do something good for you and to switch off and help you relax. Maybe you've got different routines which you've got to follow. Maybe it's further work, maybe it's study. There are so many things in this life and now in modern day life which we can't just completely switch off and then just switch on relaxation and that feel good factor. So what can we do? So one thing I always like to do, and you can do it in your head, or you can take a moment, or go for a bit of a quick walk if you can, just a couple of moments, and literally really challenge that negative mindset. So if you're in a situation and perhaps you've got that voice in your mind and it's saying, it's making you feel like that actually, do you know what, you're so stressed out, how on earth am I going to be able to cope? And we've all been there, haven't we, when we've looked at something and it's almost like we think to ourselves, how on earth are we ever going to get through this? Or maybe you question your capability, maybe are you good enough? Or can I do this? Or what does everybody else think? So the first thing you need to do is you really do need to stop and you need to question and challenge that negative mindset. Because number one, nobody is thinking nothing. That's just your negative mind frame really starting to take over. And actually at the end of the day, if there is one or two people in that, let's be honest, we live in that type of world now where actually, do you know what, it really does not matter. As long as you know and the people that care about you and your family and friends know how incredible and how important you are, then that's the main thing. If somebody is having a bit of a wobble on their day and they're having a little bit of perhaps a bit of a quiet word about you in the corner or making you feel uncomfortable, that is their problem, not yours. And my friend, you are by far worth better than that. So never, ever, ever let that affect your mindset and take you down a negative path, because you are worth so much more. A lot of my subscribers and viewers will know on my channel that I always say that there is only one of you in this world, and that alone makes you simply amazing, which it does. So let's challenge those negative thoughts. So if you're in a little bit of a rut and you're feeling a little bit beaten down and you're feeling a bit down, and you do start to question that, am I good enough, or can I get through this? Then actually, do you know what? Break it right back and question yourself. And let's be realistic in our approach. You've come this far, so you are hardworking, you're tenacious, and you are going to get through it. Because why? Because you've got through all of what you've got through already in this life. Now, to some people, that's not going to be too much, thank goodness. But for some, that will be hell in high waters, and that will be the highest mountains ever, and you've got through it. So have confidence in your abilities, have confidence in how great you are, and really own those negative thoughts. Now, it's not always easy, but the more you do it, the easier the pattern prevails in your mind, okay? And then little by little, you'll start to adopt this approach that actually when you get a negative mind frame come your way, or when you get a couple of negative thoughts come your way, you'll automatically be challenging those thoughts, and you almost have your inner self kind of giving you a talk actually in your mind. And all of this is happening in your subconscious, of course. And then you're thinking, do you know what? I just questioned myself if I'm good enough. Well, actually, do you know what? I got through a really hard week last week at work. And do you know what? With juggling everything going on at the family, and I got through everything what's going on at the moment, and we had a really tough time last month, and we really got through it. So do you know what? Today it's going to be a breeze in the park. You're just having a little bit of a wobble, and we all have them, my friend. But it's how we keep that healthy perspective and balance to think that actually, do you know what? There is a difference from questioning your strength, your abilities, your qualities, and everything you stand for, and having a bit of a wobble. It's okay to just have a bit of a moment, but never, ever, ever question how far you've come in this life, because you're too incredible, you're too important, and you've got so much amazingness about you, and you've got so much to offer. So really, really, really start to value it. Let's move on. So you've got that negative mind frame. Sometimes it can really help, if you've got the ability or the time to do it, to just write down what's stressing you out. And you know what? Sometimes it can just become as simple as that, really, really clear that actually, oh look, I'm worried about this, but actually, do you know what? I'm doing this, this, and this. And by the weekend, it's all going to be over. So why are you being so negative? You're doing it exactly the way you're meant to be doing it. You're approaching life with an objective mind frame. You're giving yourself time. You're being respectful. You're being kind to the people who you come into contact with. So the stress is actually coming from you beating yourself up and questioning your own ability and your own worth and your own value. So take the time sometimes, if you can, to write it down. One of the greatest things I love to do is journal. And when I get the time, because I do have a very busy life, is I love to just take a couple of minutes and just to jot down, on stressful days in particular, what's happened, what's picking me up, what's kind of taking the space up in my mind, because let's be honest, it's also valuable for us. So what's really absorbing my mindset? Maybe this evening or a morning, or if you've got a couple of minutes on a lunch break, or even throughout work. Do you know what? I would class that as a work task, that actually you're taking a moment to coordinate yourself, to coordinate your time, to plan your time. And do you know what? All of that reduces stress and it improves your well-being. So include it in work, because it will help you be more objective and more productive as well. And I do find that when you see it on paper sometimes, and do you know what, this is different for everybody, because it's how different people will have different mindsets of how they see things. It could be through doing something, it could be through writing something, many, many different ways of doing it. But sometimes just by seeing it written down, it becomes a little bit clearer, rather than having that kind of constant kind of battle and circle motion of worry, stress, worry, stress, worry, stress. And then in the end, that negative mind frame really starts to kind of pull us down. And then remembering what I said at the start of this clip, that actually you go down that path, that garden kind of path in your mind, and before you know it, that negativity has absorbed you so much you can't find your way back to your positive self, where you've had all that composure and you've got everything kind of together. So it really is important. Next, let's move on. And probably one of the greatest things is just to recognise that it's okay to have a down day. Because it's a really important and a real realistic view on life, that actually, do you know what, not every single day is going to be bright blue sunny skies. Not every day is going to be easy. In fact, some of them are going to be quite corkers, and some of them are actually going to be quite rotten ones. But do you know what? It is a storm, my friend. And having that view that this will pass, even though in the moment it feels like that it's never ever going to pass, and those times at work where everything just goes pear-shaped, or when something happens in the family, if you've had a crossword with a friend, you feel that actually, minute by minute, it feels like it's hours. But you know what? It does pass. And having that vision, that kind of inner intuition, which I think comes from life as well, that actually, do you know what? When we go through bad times, it does pass. Now, a lot of people may question this, but I also think that actually in bad times, there is always light. So in the darkest of times, there is always light. So always, and here's a little tip, always, when you're in a moment like that and you're going through a really, really difficult time, always look back on it that somebody is kind of with you, that somebody is watching you, and it's yourself that actually, when you get through this, you're going to actually look back on how you acted, you're going to look back on how you spoke, how you dealt with that situation, and you want to always look back at it and feel proud, because if you look back on it and you think, oh my goodness, what on earth did I do, or why did I say that? Do you know what? Sometimes just taking a few moments just to breathe, then go into a situation will really, really help. Because if you don't, when you look back on a situation, okay, and number one, you've not kind of acknowledged that, do you know what, today's a bad day, do you know what, I'm just going to get through it, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to go home, I'm going to do something nice tonight, and I'm going to approach tomorrow all over again, and the blessing that it is. If you don't sometimes look at it like that, and that's a real hard perspective to get yourself into, but my goodness, it gives you so much more of a healthier balance and perspective. Sometimes if you don't look at it like that, you can almost make negativity worse in your mind. So it is a balance, and about all of what we've spoken about here, it is a balance that actually it's a constant kind of activity that actually of evaluating how we live our life. Because do you know what, if you're really wrapped up in negativity and you've got real negative thoughts, it's not just going to come to you in one day, it's going to be a work in progress. So the next couple of days you're going to be acknowledging that actually, do you know what, today's not a great day, but I'm going to get through it. Today's a storm, it's going to pass. I'm going to acknowledge that I'm going to face this real difficult time in the best possible light, in the best possible way I can, and I'm going to really have that real integrity about myself. I'm going to have that real value about myself. And do you know what? I'm going to listen to my thoughts. I'm going to actually challenge them. I'm going to, do you know what? I'm going to look at you in my mind, and I'm going to actually really challenge you to think, do you know what? I've got through all of this so I can get through it again. I'm going to sometimes in the evening take a moment and write it all down. I'm going to really break down everything. I'm going to get through it little by little, and you do get there in the end. So by doing all of these things and by exercising all of these skills, it does get a little bit easier, and the balance of the perspective soon follows. And then you do kind of equip yourself with being able to challenge and really break through that pattern of negativity and really challenge negative thoughts. It's not easy, my friend. And even when I look as though that I've got it all so together, I still did have a really, really down day yesterday. And you know, sometimes with my nan not being with me, it absolutely breaks my heart. And sometimes this is, let's get this out there about, do you know what? Sometimes I even have just got to go off with my memories of my dear nan, look up to the sky and have a few tears and I have a few moments, and you know what, I do get through it. And then actually I look up at the sky and I think, do you know what, you're right here with me. What am I getting upset for? Yes, I can't hug you, but you're always here. And you know what, that inner kind of tuition, which life teaches us, that actually whatever we go through, whatever we're feeling, whether it be negative, whether it be bereavement, whether it be hurt, whether it be pain, it does pass. It does pass. And the feeling right in here that actually you're human, you're a person, and you're entitled to feel all of what you're feeling. So I'm not telling you not to feel or not to do something, but just sometimes take time and value you, because you are truly incredible. And my friend, this storm will pass. So if it's negativity, if it's negative thoughts, or if you're just feeling a little bit down in the dumps at the moment and you're just feeling like that it's never going to pass, it will, my friend. So take a moment, do what makes you feel good, breathe, have that real sense of strong inner tuition that you are amazing, because you truly, truly are. On that note, my friend, God bless. Take great care. Thank you very much for joining me, and until next time, I look forward to you joining me then.